What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're checking out a fat electrician.
We are.
Strap in, Katie Popcorn. This is a 40-minute video. It's been a while since we checked out fat electrician. I think the main reason we don't is if you've watched the video about basically giving us updates, this is a super long one to do and we haven't had much time. But we've got time now, so we're doing a fat electrician. I'm keen for you.
I am. Should be good.
Smash that button if you enjoy, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Probably next week we're going to be looking down here, so we hope that's okay. And yeah, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. What have we got?
This guy's probably the only dude to ever get shot in the face and benefit from it.
Wait, what?
Today we're talking about the most
benefit
gangster
from that?
general of World War II, Terry de la Mesa Allen, aka Terrible Terry. A nickname given to him not by his enemies, but by his fellow high-ranking officers for failing out of West Point, scamming his way through infantry officer school, and being a poor disciplinarian. Terry Allen did not care about the dog and pony show side of the United States military. He didn't care if his men called him general or sir. Most of them just referred to him as Terry. He did not hound his men about uniforms and grooming standards, and he certainly did not think of himself as above his men. He considered himself one of them. He gambled with them, he drank with them, and he fought with them on the front lines. Legendary war correspondent Ernie Pyle describes Terry Allen as one of his favorite people and the true soldier's general. Another war correspondent described him as the greatest leader of men and tactical general in our army, while his contemporaries described him as, and I quote, a soldier of uncertain future in peacetime army, but certainly should be entrusted with a division in a time of war. Terry Allen is a rare case of a high-ranking officer being more concerned about the opinions of the men below him instead of the men above him, and it absolutely infuriated many of his fellow generals. Despite that, he was so overwhelmingly effective on the battlefield that General Patton himself refused to go into battle without him. He was so overwhelmingly popular with the men that served beneath him and war correspondents that he actually ended up on the cover of Time magazine in World War II. Despite that, 99% of you have probably never heard a single thing about him, and today we're going to fix that right after a word from our sponsor. All right, our story begins April 1st, 1888. A young Terry de la Mesa Allen is born at Fort Douglas, Utah. Terry Allen was not only born on a military installation, he was basically bred to be in the military. His father was Colonel Samuel Allen, who served 43 years in the Army. And his grandfather on his mother's side was Colonel Carlos Alvarez de la Mesa, who fought in the Civil War at Gettysburg. Terry grew up his entire life on military installations in the West. The first thing this guy learned how to do after he learned how to walk was to ride a horse, drink, chew tobacco, gamble, and shoot the shit like an enlisted cavalry soldier. By the time he was 10 years old, he was basically in the United States Army because he went to work with his dad and followed him around every single day. So at 19 years old, Terry goes off to West Point, and he becomes pretty well known for basically two things. He's phenomenal at riding a horse and doing anything that actually involves like being a soldier out in the field, and he's absolutely horrible at everything else and shows no motivation to improve upon it whatsoever. He racks up more demerits than anybody else in his class at West Point. His uniform's never perfect, his fingernails are always dirty, he's always drinking in class, he's cheating on exams, the exact type of behavior that you would expect from a child that grew up his entire life with enlisted men out in the field. Because of this, he is not very popular with his classmates because, well, it's the 1900s, and at this point in time, the officer class is still very much that same aristocratic class from, you know, the higher society, and Terry Allen isn't taking their dog and pony show very seriously, and on top of that, he also has a very severe stutter when he talks, so everybody kind of like gives him shit and makes fun of him. Because of this, at the age of 21, he ends up getting kicked out of West Point. Not taking no for an answer, he goes and enlists in a Catholic university, graduates at the age of...
You can see from the first 22 years, like where the terrible bit came in, and the terrible Terry bit. He's not had a good start, has it really?
24, enlists in the Army, and then competes for a slot to be a cavalry officer, and he wins. He ends up getting commissioned about 5 months after his class at West Point. From here, Terry is pretty much immediately sent to the southern border between the United States and Mexico, where he is tasked with stopping smugglers and gun runners from crossing the border. He gets in frequent skirmishes, and this is his first taste of combat. And when he's not doing that, he has to go and, you know, intermingle with his fellow officer class and their hoity-toity aristocratic society nonsense. And obviously, Terry's still not super popular. He's still rough around the edges. He's still kind of disheveled. He's got dirt under his fingernails. fingernails, he likes to drink, he likes to cuss, and he's still got that stutter. But Terry does gain some popularity because you know what the hoity-toity officer class likes doing? They like playing polo. And you know what Terry's really good at? Riding a horse, which comes in handy when you're playing polo. Terry ends up becoming one of the best polo players around and ends up being the captain of his team. And they have this game slotted up where he's supposed to go up against this like regional champion team, and they're supposed to absolutely crush Terry's team. But Terry doesn't care what's supposed to happen. Terry wants to win regardless. So he makes his team go out and practice for weeks leading up to this game. And for practice, he has them shooting goals on a target that's only 1 yard wide when the average polo goal is 8 yards wide.
Oh, wow. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What?
So Terry essentially overtrains his team.
Have you seen that movie? You not seen Dodgeball?
No.
Oh, let us know if you want to check out Dodgeball. I don't know when movies will return. If you want to check out Dodgeball, let us know. The lighting is so bad in here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is what it is though.
Let us know. Let's say we're going to get probably 5 or 6 videos ahead today, so we do apologise about lighting. If there's anything we can do to fix it, we'll try our best for the next time, but let us know how bad it actually is. Oh god, yeah, I haven't gotten like this game.
And when that game comes around, the regional champion team takes 40 shots at the goal. They only make 7. Terry's team only takes 8 shots at the goal, but they made all 8. And this is the first glimpse we get to see of Terry's leadership and his mentality of how to get shit done. This goes on for a couple of years, and then World War I kicks off, and Terry wants to go off to war. Unfortunately, his current unit is going to stay right where they're at the southern border. So Terry volunteers for overseas duty, so he essentially just gets backfilled into any open slot, which unfortunately happens to be in a supply company. So he's going to go overseas and just carry supplies up to the front line and not actually get to fight on the front lines. But that's not what Terry wants. Terry wants to be on the front lines with the infantry. The problem is he can't really do that because he's not an infantry officer. He's a cavalry officer. So Terry comes up with a plan. He just shows up to an infantry officer graduation ceremony and hops in line, gets to the front of the line, and the commandant looks Terry up and down and is like, I don't recognize you. And Terry looks the dude dead ass in the eye and goes, I'm Alan. Why don't you? And the officer's like kind of taken aback, like, am I the dick here? Do I really not remember this guy that went through my entire course? And he's just like, doesn't know what to do. So he just hands Terry the certificate and sends him on his way. And Terry is now a temporary major and infantry officer. Wow. So Terry shows off to World War I.
You know what they do say, you know, if you have enough confidence, you can get away with anything, really. Yeah. Not anything, obviously. But it's like, when we go to size in the high base, you don't get questioned it because you're meant to be there. But they don't know you're meant to be there. No. If you rock up there confident with a high base, are they actually going to say, oh, even if you're not meant to be there?
Of an infantry battalion. Once there, Terry partakes in the St. Mihiel offensive and the Battle of the Meuse-Argonne, literally the biggest battle that America has ever fought in, ever. And while he's there, Terry is tearing shit up, okay? He is on the front lines fighting with his men. He ends up getting wounded 4 separate times. The first time it happens, he wakes up in the aid station, looks around like, what the fuck is going on, sees the medical tag around him with like all of his, you know, vitals and all of his BS and everything that's wrong with him, rips that off and goes back to the front line. Another one of his injuries comes when Terry is shot in the face. Not only does Terry survive and go back into combat, but he actually benefits from getting shot in the face because for some reason, it cures his stutter. And this is really where we start to see the most gangster general start to come into play, right? Like getting wounded on the front line with your men and returning to combat before the doctor says you can. Pretty gangster. Getting shot in the face, surviving, and then returning to combat. Very gangster. But getting shot in the face and having the old adage, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, actually apply, because you not only survive, you not only return to combat, but you show back up and you suddenly speak better, is undeniably the most gangster shit that's ever happened ever. As World War
That is pretty cool, isn't it? Like, fair play to it.
Continues to go on, Terry gets more and more comfortable in combat. This is where he really thrives, and he's starting to get a lot of ideas of his own. And one of the things he comes up with is like, why the fuck are we fighting in the daylight? You know what I mean? Like, let's fight at night where nobody can see shit. It's pure chaos, and Americans thrive in chaos. So one day, Terry gets ordered to take a position, and the estimated casualties of taking this objective are gonna be like 200 to 300 men. So Terry is like, fuck that. You know what we're gonna do? Instead of attacking tomorrow when we're supposed to attack, we're gonna attack tonight when it's dark. You know, at this point, that's not how you conduct warfare, okay? Not a lot of people are launching night attacks in trench warfare, but you know what? Terry just showed back up after getting shot in the face, and now he speaks better. Fucking, I'll follow that guy into any amount of combat anywhere, and that's pretty much how all of his men felt, except for one company commander. This company commander is like, no, we can't do that. We need to follow orders. We need to do exactly what we're told. We can't attack at night. You're going to get us all killed, yada, yada, yada. Finally, Terry just gets fed up at hearing this dude, pulls out his pistol, and shoots him through the ass cheek. Terry then looks at this company commander and says, and I quote, "There, you're out. You're wounded."
Thank you.
You're welcome. Company commander goes,
Do you say thank you to that? I don't know. That's gotta hurt. He's shot in your arse.
That's made me tense.
the aid station, his XO takes over. They launch this night attack. They take the objective, and they only lose 20 men. So night combat was outrageously effective for Terry and his men, but shortly after that first night combat, the war ends up coming to an end. Terry would later go on to write, and I quote, "I wish the war hadn't stopped when it did. It's a damn shame. I was just beginning to get good ideas about commanding infantry battalions. I wish I could go back to the front and try them out." Regardless, the armistice is signed, World War I is over. Terry ends up staying over in Europe until 1920 as part of the occupation army, and somewhere along the lines, he ends up, playing polo against the British, and then he ends up, being friends with some of the British officers, and he has this one officer that he ends up being pretty good drinking buddies with. And this particular officer's name was Edward VIII, as in like the Prince of Wales and future King Edward VIII, and Terry had no fucking idea until after the fact. So just to recap on Terry in World War I, literally scams his way into becoming an infantry officer, successfully leads an entire battalion into combat, earns a Silver Star, earns a Purple Heart, gets shot in the face that fixes his stutter, and then becomes drinking buddies with the fucking King of England. Terry's the main character. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, he's definitely got many guys.
You could be owed up to £5,000 and not even know it. If you took out...
I don't know how editing's going to be on this laptop, so let's go.
So Terry returns to the United States, loses his temporary rank of major, gets busted back down to captain. He didn't do anything wrong. This was just standard practice. He only had the rank of major because it was like a time of war and that's what had to happen. So Terry gets back home, gets settled in, and then in 1922, he gets called into his boss's office, and his boss, this colonel, explains to him that there's this famous rodeo promoter named Tex Austin and the Cattle Association, and they want to put on a competition between an actual cowboy and a cavalryman because there's been this huge rival between the two at who's a better horseman for like 100 years. They want it to be a long distance, 300-mile race where each rider is only allowed to use one horse. So Terry asks the colonel who's going to compete for the army, and the colonel says, "You are, and you're gonna win." And he's gonna be competing against his legendary cowboy known as Key Dune. He was a former wagon boss in the Old West. He's just a complete legend, and everybody is expecting whoever the army puts up to get absolutely smoked by this guy. And that's why it's a cattle congress and a rodeo promoter putting the whole thing on. They want to show that cowboys are better than the United States military. Unfortunately, they don't know that the U.S. Army has Terry Allen, and he's the main character. So the media and the newspapers hype this up. The entire world is watching. The very first day, Terry clears over 50 miles and the cowboy barely hits 30. Terry's getting telegrams and updates on the race of where he's at, where the cowboy's at, how many miles are left to go every single night. And Terry is so far ahead the entire time that by the third day, he decides that he has time to stop at a diner and have breakfast. The waiter, striking up casual conversation, asks Terry if he's heard about this crazy race going on between the legendary cowboy Key Dune and some army guy. And he goes like, "I'm sure the army guy is really good, but he doesn't stand a chance against a real cowboy." To which Terry informs him, "Well, first off, my name's Terry Allen. I'm the army guy, and last I checked, I'm pretty far ahead of him." The restaurant ends up paying for Terry's breakfast for him, and then later that day, Terry receives a telegram that Key Dune ran into trouble and he couldn't get feed for his horse one night. Now, on one hand, that's good because Terry's definitely going to win now because this guy's horse might actually die without getting the proper care it needs, but on the other hand, not exactly how Terry wants to win. So Terry sends a telegram back saying that they need to send an army car with feed and water and everything his horse needs to Key Dune, and that's exactly what they do. They keep Key Dune in the race just so Terry can beat him fair and square. Okay, this is a double win. It's actually genius on Terry's part because on one side, he gets to look like a class act. On the other side, he's preemptively shutting up all the typewriter warriors that are going to be like, "Buh, he actually only won because that guy couldn't get feed for his horse. It was a fluke. A real cowboy's still better than army cavalry. Buh." No. Terry's shutting all that shit out of the gate, and he's gonna beat this guy fair and square. And that's exactly what he does because he ends up beating Key Dune by over 7 hours. For the rest of the interwar years between World War I and World War II, Terry is pretty much just training and really defining the doctrine for what a cavalry soldier is supposed to be doing on the battlefield. You have to realize at this point in time, warfare on horseback is outdated, but nobody really knows that yet, right? Like they're gonna get replaced by tanks and trucks, but World War I, tanks were just introduced. They were very simple things. It was just a big metal box with guns on it where you could pretty much just drive straight. They didn't have radios inside of them. They couldn't coordinate attacks. So a lot of people didn't understand the real potential with mechanized warfare. So a lot of people were still under the impression that horse warfare was still going to be very prevalent in the future. During this time, Terry literally rewrote the cavalry field regulations while he was at Fort Riley. He then went on to write a literal book about it that got published in the 1930s called Reconnaissance by Horse Cavalry Regiments. While all that was going on, he served as the assistant commander.
Is that a book you can get to read? That's interesting.
Imagine you can.
But can you Amazon it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is on comments.
In 3 separate divisions where it was said that he, and I quote, succeeded in convincing all of his charges that they were the best outfit in the army. Again, this speaks to Terry's unorthodox but truly exceptionary leadership skills.
Definitely. Like, he's persuaded everyone.
1940, Terry was promoted to Brigadier General. 1941 rolls around, the attack on Pearl Harbor, America enters World War II. Terry's getting fitted up for war. And then in 1942, he is promoted to Major General and put in charge of the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. So Terry shows up to the 1st ID, assumes command, and then he meets his 2nd in command, a man that is just like him. He is rough around the edges. He does not care about the dog and pony show that is the United States military at higher ranks. And he also cares much more about the men beneath him than the men above him, and that man's name was Theodore Roosevelt Jr., aka Teddy Roosevelt's son. So Terry and Teddy get to work getting the 1st ID ready for battle. The first thing they do is flip the entire script on its head. Terry actually becomes friends with all of the men beneath him. They don't even call him General or Sir. They literally just end up calling him Terry. Terry doesn't hound him about having a prim and proper uniform all the time. The only thing Terry hounds him on is that their weapon is absolutely spotless and that they're good at their job. Unlike a lot of other high-ranking officers, Terry doesn't micromanage all of the officers and NCOs beneath him. Terry realizes that he has a very zoomed out bird's eye view of everything that's going on, and the men on the ground that are actually seeing individual problems up close have a much better idea of what's going on and how that problem needs to be solved. Terry focuses on actually picking the right men for the job, telling them what he wants done, and then letting them figure out how to do it. By November of 1942, Terry, Teddy, and the 1st Infantry Division are going to partake in Operation Torch, the Allied invasion in North Africa, particularly Morocco and Algeria, and the 1st Infantry Division is tasked with taking over a major city with an airfield known as Oran. November 8th, 1942 at midnight, the 1st Infantry Division makes its amphibious landing into Algeria, and everything goes absolutely textbook. They see a little bit of resistance, but not much. They overcome it almost immediately. Oran's about 25 miles from the beachhead, and they have to clear all of that distance on foot, rucking and carrying all their gear with them. During that time, they experience very minimal resistance until they come across a town called St. Cloud, where all of the forces had kind of regrouped and fell back to this town in fortified fighting positions and were waiting for the Allied forces to come in and fight them. At this point, Terry's got to consider what he actually wants to do here, because he could send in all of his men, clear out the entire town, kill all the enemies, and probably be considered a war hero for it. But he's going to be putting his men in harm's way, and there's nothing of strategic value inside of St. Cloud. His objective is to take over the city of Oran, and he doesn't need St. Cloud to do it, and he's not going to put his men in harm's way for no reason. The next thing he could do is bombard it with artillery, but there's a bunch of civilians that live in that town too, so that option is also out. So Terry takes one of his battalions, fortifies it, and has them surround the town so the enemy can't get out, and then launch a counterattack later, and continues to move the 1st Infantry Division towards the objective. Okay, this is brilliant. This is literally what the Marines did in the Pacific Theater with the island hopping strategy, except Terry is doing it in North Africa with entire towns. Now remember, this is 25 miles in.
I don't know what the Marines did there. I don't know that info. But it is impressive. And it sounds like he's going to nail it as well, doesn't it?
To Oran, carrying all their shit after landing on a wet beach, probably being soaked. Okay, this is going to be a jaunt and a half. It's going to be exhausting, and it's going to take time. The 1st ID moves all through the night, all through the day of November 9th, and Terry is pushing his men to the point of exhaustion. On the morning of the 10th, Terry is up on the front line with his men after everybody's been walking for a day and a half, and as he's patrolling the front line, seeing how everybody's doing, he comes across this utterly exhausted rifle company that's taking shelter inside of a ditch next to a road because there's some stray artillery fire coming in. So Terry walks through the ditch, gets on the other side, and he's standing, and he can see the city of Oran off in the distance, and he's looking around, he's looking at the faces of his men. He knows they're exhausted. The men are looking back at him like, okay, here it comes. We're about to get our ass chewed because we're taking a break. Fuck. So Terry looks back at the city of Oran, and then he looks back at the men, and he says, and I quote, "There's a lot of good-looking girls in that city ready to welcome the liberating Americans."
Where did Hackett go?
There's gold in them hills!
Why do I get 5%
We got that. I was thinking, surprise, Millionaire will do this. These are super long videos, and we're all really trying to get ahead, so don't hate us for doing this. This is part 1.
Part 1.
Part 1. We've done it before.
Oh.
I think that's the way to go with
I was thinking
Electrician
having
videos.
a drink, so I was hoping you were going to get a drink.
Yeah, we'll get a drink. We are just going to do it straight away because I am intrigued, and like I said, we're about to run in. And what we'll do with this is in 2 hours' time from when this video's gone out, will be part 2. So it'll be the same night. Tonight you'd had our update video, this video, then part 2, and then tomorrow you'll have new videos. I hope you're enjoying. I'm intrigued to see Terry's just, like I say, unbelievable. And smash that if you're enjoying, smash that subscribe button as well. We'll see you legends in a couple of hours for part 2. Yeah, what's your video?
Have a great day.
Peace.